Have you ever engaged in a serious debate over which is better, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? Have you ever played Smash or Pass using only characters from Star Wars and Marvel movies? If you answered yes to any of these questions, we have the podcast for you. Listen to The Steam Gentlemen, the podcast where an expert panel convenes to ask the questions about pop culture and social commentary that other podcasts are afraid to ask. Listen to The Steam Gentlemen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, Wrestling Fans International Association is back. That's right, the premier fan club association of the 1970s and 1980s has been revived and is back in business. Join today. It's free at thewfia.org. That's thewfia.org. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/WFIA 1969. Welcome, everybody, back to the 1987 Supermod. I am your host, Brad Drake, and today is Thanksgiving Day. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you, my friends, and also my family members that watch this. For those of you that may not be in the United States, this is one of our biggest holidays of the year. We get together and have a ton of food, and a lot of people watch American football, and it's just a great day to get together. And also in wrestling history, Thanksgiving was also a huge show day. And the thought process behind it, and it was always a successful formula, was that families would get together and spend all day together and eat, and then they were open to do stuff at night. So they would, local territories and that, and even the big time promotions would host shows, and they'd have like big shows on Thanksgiving night. It was a big deal for wrestling. Tony Schiavone talks about it all the time. Jim Cornette talks about it all the time. Bruce Pritchard talks about it. It was a big thing, a big popular thing. Nowadays, movies are a big thing, or at least they used to be when people still went to movie theaters to see movies that came out on Thanksgiving. As a matter of fact, I think I am going to check out Napoleon later tonight for Thanksgiving. So there we go, everybody. That is the story with Thanksgiving, and we're doing something a little bit different today, something I think is pretty exciting. A promotion that I never knew a whole lot about was Memphis Wrestling, also known as the Continental Wrestling Association. I knew enough to be dangerous, but not the whole ins and outs of it. So I read Jerry Jarrett's book, and for those of you that haven't read it, it's terrific. It's really good. He gives a nice inside view of what was going on, all his years of promoting and how he got involved in wrestling and everything else. So out of curiosity, I decided to go in and start playing as Continental Wrestling Association, also known as Memphis, also later known as the Championship Wrestling Association. I had already gone through and put in a lot of the historical belts into the CWA, and this time I decided to play it a little bit. And so this is my save that I have been doing for a while here. And here's just some of the people on the roster. I've pretty much kept the roster the same, except I did bring in Chris Adams. I did bring in Terry Taylor. I did bring in Tony Atlas. And I brought in a very young Shane Douglas. He got released from the UWF. I brought him in. And I wanted to have a good Moondog feud with the Rock and Roll RPMs over the Southern Tag title. So I signed Moondog Rex to tag with Moondog Spike, because Moondog Spot is out for a long time with a serious injury. We also have things straightened out here with the Lord Humongous thing. This mod incorrectly had Jeff Van Camp as Lord Humongous in CWA at this time, and that just wasn't the case. At this point in 1987, it is a young Sid Vicious. So we've got that fixed up. This has been a lot of fun. I went through and looked up the historical schedules of the CWA and put it into the game. I listened to a bunch of shoot interviews with Bill Dundee, Jerry Lawler, people like that. So at one point, the CWA had a weekly loop that was Memphis on Monday, followed by the Louisville Gardens on Tuesday, followed by Evansville, Indiana. As you can see, this is spelled wrong. We're going to fix that right now. And then they were also in Jonesboro weekly. The three majors weekly was Memphis, Louisville, and Jonesboro. And then they also ran Jackson, Tennessee every couple weeks, and they ran Tupelo, Mississippi every couple weeks. So I put those into the game, and as you see, I've been playing them for a while here. We are into June, so end of June, so I'm already like almost 2 months into the game. So, and it's a lot, as you can see, it's a lot every week. Plus, we have the spot shows, right? Memphis always had a lot of spot shows. So I've been watching Memphis shows from 1987, and I've actually plugged in the buildings that they were visiting for spot shows. So we are doing the real spot shows, and as you can see, they're all in there, all laid out here for the next couple months. So it's been a blast. One thing I had happen was in the original editing, I did not have the Midnight Rockers loaned out long enough to Memphis. I had them on a random thing. That was a mistake. We got that fixed. And so I lost them in the save. And they were in a hot feud with the sheep herders, who would later go on to be known as the Bushwhackers. And so I was kind of in a bind. I needed a hot young tag team, so that's how I ended up bringing in Adams and Taylor. Okay, we still have bad company down here. Paul Diamond got one of those neck injuries, so he's hurt for the year. I mean, he's still usable, but he gets the takeaway from it. Dundee and Lawler are both baby faces at this point. Boy, Bill Dundee went from heel to face more times than Paul White in the WWF. Tarzan Goto and Tojo Yamamoto are actually a babyface team at this point in Memphis. I had made that error and had Goto as a heel before, but that just was not the case. We have Austin Idol and Tommy Rich. Remember, Tommy Rich famously turned on Jerry Lawler in that cage match when he was under the ring, which caused Lawler to get his hair cut. These two are still aligned. Jeff Jarrett, young Jeff Jarrett, and a young Billy Joe Travis are a tag team. Here's the young Memphis Vice. I haven't really gotten too much steam behind them yet, but they'll get there. Rock and Roll RPMs, the current Southern Tag Team Champions. Brought in the Bruise Brothers. Of course, that's the Harris Brothers. I didn't bring them in. They were already in, getting their start here in the CWA. Here's this version of the Moondogs. Well, Spot's out, so we have Spike. And I got to correct that. I brought in Moondog Spike. I didn't bring in Moondog Rex. The Nasty Boys are here, very young, getting things going. And here are the sheep herders. Now, you're probably wondering about titles. Well, the first thing I did was that I took the Memphis television show Championship Wrestling, and I got it all over the world. See, about the only place we're not in is Europe right now. We can't get contract in regular Europe, but it's national, international, all over Canada. It's broadcast worldwide, right? So when you have television coverage worldwide, which was the old PWI rule, you then have a world heavyweight title, right? So CWA had a bunch of titles. As you probably know, they had the international heavyweight title, they had the southern heavyweight title, they had the international tag title, they had the southern tag title, they had just so many titles, right? As a matter of fact, we can take a look at them here. Here's a bunch of the active titles that they had going. Obviously, not all these apply. Now, in the game, I had preloaded CWA Tag Team and CWA Heavyweight for when those titles do take place in early 1988. But in this case, I brought back a World Heavyweight title. Why not? So I retired the AWA Southern and Tag Team titles, I brought in new titles, the CWA. We've changed our name, as would normally take place in early '88. It went from the Continental Wrestling Association to the Championship Wrestling Association. I have changed these titles to the CWA and just created new versions of them. I'd like to do that in the game because I like to click on a wrestler and see all the old titles that he had. See how that works? Looks pretty cool, right? I like to split titles as much as possible in this mod. So I created a World Heavyweight title, and that is the USWA World Heavyweight title there. Austin Idol won a tournament to claim the crown, and then he vacated the Southern Heavyweight title that Rocky Johnson captured in a tournament himself. I created the World Tag Team title. Butch Miller and Luke Williams, you might remember those as the All Japan Pro Wrestling PWF Tag Team title. But the Bushwhackers, or the Sheepherders, the current champions, they were in a really hot feud with the Midnight Rockers. Midnight Rockers left, so I brought in Adams and Taylor to feud that way. Obviously, the CWA Tag Team champions are Mike Davis and Tommy Lane. Rock and Roll RPMs, good team. And I introduced the World Light Heavyweight title because at this point, the CWA was very tight with World Class and with the AWA. We would see that unification at Super Clash, and I gave Brickhouse Brown the World Light Heavyweight title. Both those promotions have a World Light Heavyweight title, so I figured, what the heck? Why don't we have one here in Memphis? Even though we don't have a whole lot of lightweight wrestlers, it's still a good thing to have, and I like having it, and Brickhouse Brown's doing a good job defending it. So this has been the fun with the Memphis save that I'm doing, and I am having a blast doing it, no doubt about it. Our show history, we're building up in these other areas. We're not true sellouts all the time, but we're getting there. You know, TEW has its quirks, right? So Louisville Garden, if you look at the map for TEW, technically Kentucky is in Mid-Atlantic, and I got that straightened out. And yes, there is an unofficial TEW map that you can go ahead and look up on Google. And Kentucky is technically in the Mid-Atlantic region. So I did that accordingly. And this has been changed. This will be new for version 11. You're going to dig it. The Tupelo Arena that Memphis would run in usually is not in the game yet. It doesn't come out until July of 1987, so I've been using the Tupelo High School gym. And yes, I added all of these spot show venues. So this is the fun I've been having, everybody. And here's our storylines that are taking place. I told you about Chris Adams and Terry Taylor against the Sheepherders. Bad Company is in a feud with Goto and Yamamoto. True to Life. Bam Bam Bigelow and David Schultz are in a feud. I brought in David Schultz. He's a good signing, does a really good job here in Memphis. Chick Donovan and Rocky Johnson are in a feud. Lord Humongous is in a feud with Tony Atlas. They just got started on that one. The Moondogs are in their battle with the Rock and Roll RPMs over the Southern Tag Team title. And I just created a new feud with Akio Sato and the Colorado Kid. I've always been a big fan of Akio Sato. I always thought he was a really good wrestler. And Colorado Kid, I always thought very highly of Mike Rapata, too. So that's what we got going. It's been going pretty well. We're going to continue doing it. I'm sure I'll get bored of it down the road. But for right now, I'm really enjoying doing it. So I just want to take a break from our WWF and other saves that we have going and show you what I've had going on here, everybody, with the CWA here in TEW 2020. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. For those of you that are new to the channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. And let me redo that. I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. For those of you that are new to our channel, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a message below. Let us know you found the channel and what you think of us so far. For those of you looking for more, you can find it over on Patreon, patreon.com/PowerCast Network. All of our spreadsheets that are updated are available on there. All of our shows early and ad-free. The latest version of the 1987 Supermod is also on there. Check it out today, everybody. It's just $5. Patreon.com/PowerCast Network. Also, everybody, check us out on social media, facebook.com/groups/1987 Supermod. And don't forget, everybody, you can get a free membership to Wrestling Fans International by checking out the WFIA.org. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll see you next time.